Something huge has just changed at the U.S. border, and if you're not a U.S. citizen, it's definitely going to affect you. We're talking about a new, mandatory biometric system for entering and leaving the country. So let's dive in and figure out what this is all about.
Got plans to travel to or from the U.S. anytime soon? Then you really need to pay attention. It doesn't matter if you're a tourist, a student, a diplomat, or even a green card holder. The way you cross the border is officially different now. So what exactly is the new deal?
Here is the big headline. As of December 26th, the U.S. government is requiring biometric data from pretty much every single non-U.S. citizen. Now, this whole idea isn't totally new, right? It's been in pilot programs for a while. But the big deal is that now it's the standard, mandatory rule everywhere.
So what even are biometrics? It's basically just a fancy way of saying they're measuring your unique physical traits. In this case, it's mostly about taking a picture of your face to match it with your passport or visa. This creates a digital record of when you come in, and this is the really crucial part, when you go out.
Okay, so this is probably the question on everyone's mind. Who exactly does this new rule apply to? And the short answer is, well, it's a huge list. It now includes a ton of groups who, for a long time, were totally exempt.
And what's really wild about this is who's now on the list. For years, lawful permanent residents, we're talking green card holders, were generally exempt. Not anymore. They're in. Canadian visitors who often had a much easier time crossing, now included. Even diplomats, young children under 14 and seniors over 79, yep, they're all part of this mandatory screening now. It's a massive expansion.
And this is where things get really interesting. For U.S. citizens, this whole system is voluntary. They can say no thanks and opt for a manual inspection instead. But for non-U.S. citizens, it is absolutely mandatory. And check out the difference in how the data is handled. A U.S. citizen's photo, it's deleted within 12 hours. A non-citizen's photo can be stored in a government database for, get this, up to 75 years. That is a huge difference.
So why the massive change? Why now? Well, the official line from the Department of Homeland Security, the whole reason for this, all boils down to one thing: enhancing national security.
So here are the main goals they've laid out. First, they want to better identify known criminals and suspected terrorists. Makes sense? Second, they're trying to crack down on people using fake or stolen passports. A really big focus is also on tracking visa overstays, people who stick around longer than they're legally allowed to. And finally, it's all part of a big push to just modernize the entire border system with new tech.
And you don't have to take my word for it. Here's a direct quote from U.S. Customs and Border Protection. They're saying this system helps them deal with terrorism threats, document fraud, and people overstaying their visas. So you see, the whole point is to create this complete travel record, a full loop of who comes in and who goes out for every non-citizen.
All right, so we've talked about the who and the why, but what does this actually mean for you when you're standing there at the border? Let's get practical.
Here's what you can expect. Most of the time, it's going to be pretty simple. You'll walk up to a little kiosk or an officer, a camera will snap your picture, and that's it. And this is going to happen every single time you enter and every time you leave. It doesn't matter if it's a huge airport like JFK, a land border with Canada or Mexico, or a seaport.
But hold on, it might not just be a photo. The rules also give officials the power to collect other kinds of biometrics too. We're talking things like your fingerprints or even an iris scan, all to double and triple check that you are who your passport says you are.
Now, if you're a green card holder, this is a huge adjustment. So here's how you can prepare. First, just expect it. Expect the photo, maybe the fingerprints, every single time you cross. Second, you might get a few more questions than you're used to, so just be ready for that. Third, and this is always good advice, make sure your documents are in order and easy to get to. And finally, it's probably smart to plan for a little extra uncertainty, maybe some potential delays if you have other immigration applications in the pipe.
Okay, but we're not done yet. This biometric system isn't the only new rule that's just dropped. There's another related change that adds a whole other layer of scrutiny for a specific group of people.
This second rule is all about what they're calling intensive reviews. It's targeted at green card applicants and holders who are citizens of certain countries. Essentially, the U.S. government is saying, hey, we're not so sure about the original vetting process in these specific nations, so we're going to take a much, much closer look.
So, how many countries are we talking about here? 19. The government has identified 19 countries whose citizens are now going to face this extra deep level of scrutiny when it comes to their green card status.
And here are just some of the countries on that list. We're talking about places like Afghanistan, Iran, Somalia, and Venezuela. So if you're a citizen from any of those 19 countries, the takeaway is pretty clear. You should be prepared for more detailed checks and honestly, probably some delays in any processing.
So, where do we go from here? With these new rules kicking in, what's the plan for rolling them out? And what are the most important things for you to remember? Let's look at the road ahead.
Right, so this isn't all happening at once. It's a phased rollout. For the first couple of years, the focus is going to be on the big international airports. Then, over the next few years after that, they'll expand it to cover literally every single entry and exit point, land, sea, you name it, until it becomes a totally comprehensive national system.
So what's the bottom line? What do you need to do? Well, first, preparation is everything. Make sure all of your immigration paperwork is current and correct. Second, keep an eye out for official news from places like DHS or USCIS. And third, if you have any doubts at all, especially if you're traveling soon, waiting on an application, or from one of those 19 countries, it's probably a really smart move to talk to an immigration lawyer.
When you step back, this whole shift really pushes us to ask a big question. As our borders become more and more digital, how do we find the right balance between keeping a country secure and protecting a traveler's personal privacy? There's no easy answer, and it's a conversation we're all going to be having for a long time to come. Thanks for joining